Hello friends, welcome to a new video. This week we are going to be dyeing this beautiful light buttery color that is going to be all the rage this summer. And I'm going to do it on a skein of superwash merino, 80% superwash merino, 10% nylon and 10% cashmere. So we're going fancy this week. The first thing we're going to do, as always, is to soak the yarn. So let's get going on that.
You got me feeling good, right about your side. Lost in every move, right in the...
So first thing we need to do, before soaking the yarn, we're going to open up the skein. And we're going to add a zip tie to it. Just because it's easier to pick it up from the soaking pan, soaking tub and dyeing pan and so on. And in order to get the yarn or the color to adhere to the yarn, we will be adding a little bit of citric acid. I use a little bit in the soaking water and I will use a little bit as well when I dye, but you can also choose to just do one of them. And I'm adding in a couple of liters of water. No need to stir it, the citric acid will dissolve on its own. And I'm just placing the yarn in here and pushing it down gently so that it gets soaked thoroughly. There we go. And now we're going to let it sit for about half an hour and then we are ready to start dyeing. We are about ready to start dyeing some yarn. The skein has been soaking for, excuse me, more than half an hour, almost an hour. I have decided to go with the Jacquard acid dye in the color Sun Yellow. And I think I'm only going to need one color today. Got a teaspoon for grabbing the dye. Always make sure that the tools you're using are specific just for yarn dyeing so that you're not using your kitchen appliances for that. I have this tiny little milk whisker that I use to make sure the dye dissolves properly. I have got some water here. Added about 2 cups here and I will be adding the dye into this one using the whisker to make sure it all dissolves, and then I will fill it up completely with water and we'll have about 2 liters of water, which should be enough for that single skein. Also got an old yogurt container empty that I just got clear water in, and a spoon that I can use to poke and move about the yarn. And of course, very important, always wear a respiratory mask to protect your airways, because this powder is very, very fine. You don't want to breathe that in. I will also be using some gloves later on, probably. I forgot to grab those today. And we do have also some citric acid that I will be adding to the dye pan. But first of all, mask on and getting some dye into the water. This is what the powder looks like. And we're going to need very, very little. Now, this is a large can, but the small ones it will last you a long time. So I'm only going to grab that much. Actually, I'm going to, let's go with that. Because this dye is a lot more powerful than you think it is. And I don't want to dye it too yellow, I want a light yellow. Okay, let's mix that up. And as you can see, the water is getting quite yellow, even from that small amount. And we'll be adding more water to dilute it some more, but yeah, We shall see. It might be a little more yellow than I want it. We'll find out. Okay. I'm going to rinse that. There we go. And we can add in more water. So let's do that and we'll see if the color gets any lighter. Okay, there we go. As you can see, it's quite a lemony yellow, so it might be more yellow than I want it to be. But we're going to just start pouring it, and then I might just stop and add just clean water if I think it is too yellow. So let's move over to the dye pan. Okay, I'm dyeing in a small pan, small canteen today, since I only have one skein of yarn. And I'm going to start off with adding a little bit of citric acid, even though I've had some in the soaking water. Again, it's a preference of mine. You don't really have to do that. Next, I have decided, since my dye stock is quite yellow, I'm actually going to start with just some water first. I poured up about 1 liter of clear water, and I've used just over half now. And next we are going to move that over a bit. We're grabbing the skein by the zip tie, which makes it easier to catch it. So I'm just gonna lightly squeeze out some of the water from the soaking, and it's just only to make it easier to move it around so it doesn't get I don't get water absolutely everywhere. Okay, there we go. And I'm moving my tray with my dye stuff in as well. Let me move the camera a bit so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. Got my tray here with my water bucket and large spoon. Got a dye handy in case I need more, but I shouldn't think so. And I have got the stock that I made. So I'm just going to add that in. So, like so. I'm not grabbing all of it yet right now because I want to make sure it isn't too yellow. And I'm just making sure all the yellow is blended into the yarn. And we're starting to heat it up, and it's the combination of the citric acid and the dye and the heat that will make the color, the dye, adhere to the yarn. Otherwise it would just be rinsed out the first time you wash it. I think I'm going to add in the rest of the stock. There we go. And just making sure that blends into the rest of the water and into the yarn. Making sure that where the yarn is folded double, I get color in everywhere, in all the folds. Otherwise we will get white spots, and we don't want that. There we go. Now we just need to heat it up and let the dye exhaust, which probably shouldn't take too long since this is a very light color. a light single color. So that usually happens quite fast. I'm quite happy with the color we got right now. And I actually brought out one of my butter containers. Can you see? Butter does look slightly lighter in this light, but they are quite similar when you see them in real life. The water is heating up properly. I don't know if you can see it. It is not supposed to boil, just get really warm. And I check that by just poking my fingers into the pan. Don't recommend you do that. If you do anyway, be very, very careful. You don't want to burn yourself. This is actually very hot, so I'm going to turn off the heat now. And since it is such a light color, it has already exhausted. As you can see, the water is completely clear. Which means we're already done with this. And it has a beautiful light yellow color. It looks almost like butter pasta. Butter angel hair, maybe. So next we are just going to set the pan aside and let the yarn cool off, I'm sorry. And it is very important that you do that and make it cool completely before rinsing it. If you try to rinse yarn that is still hot, you will shock the yarn. So set it aside and just let it cool down naturally until it is completely cool, and we'll get back to it and rinse it. Our beautiful butter yellow spaghetti looking yarn has cooled down completely. The yarn is all cold now, and it's time to rinse it. As you can see, it's kind of everywhere in the pan, but I can see the zip tie, so I'm grabbing that. I'm gonna just gently dunk it a little bit and it will straighten out. So I'm squeezing out some of the water, mostly to not make a mess. There we go. I'm gonna put that into the bowl to rinse it, and I've just added cold water and a tiny splash, well actually a rather large splash of soak, which is my favorite go-to to use when rinsing the yarns. And with soak you do not have to rinse more than once. I will, however, it's just my own preference, but it's really not necessary. So we're going to rinse the yarn once, then once more, and then we're going to hang it to dry. So let me move the camera just a little bit for you here first. There you go. Now you can see what I'm doing. So I'm basically just dunking the skein to the water. This also helps to detangle any tangles that have happened while cooling off, or while drying and cooling off. And I'm squeezing out the water. Do not wring it, just squeeze it. There it is. And I'm using my soaking bowl just to hold it while transferring from soaking to drying, but I'm going to give it one more quick rinse. And since it is a very light color and I used very sparingly amounts of dye, the color has exhausted completely. As you can see, it's a very, very light pale yellow. Very beautiful. And one of the more popular colors this year. You'll probably find them on all types of summer garments in particular. This is what has been on the runways for this year. So, giving a few more dunks in the water. And squeezing out the water. You can use a salad spinner if you have one. Just make sure you use it only for yarn dyes. I prefer just to use my hands. I just squeeze it. Do not wring it, just squeeze it. There we go. And now we're going to hang it to dry.
You got me feeling good, right about your side. Lost in every move, riding down your smile.
It is time for the finished yarn to show off. Here it is. I really like this buttery yellow that we made. Really pleased with that. I might have to dye some more of this because I think this will be a really nice color for this summer. So I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, it's soft and squishy now that the yarn has dried and bloomed properly. And yeah, as you can see, it's not difficult to make either. So give it a go if you like. I would love to see your results. So link that below if you tried. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you want to follow along with more yarn dyeing videos. I will be posting one once a week, all year this time. So there's a lot to look forward to. So thank you for watching this week, and I hope to see you next week. Bye.
You got me feeling good, right about your side. Lost in every move, riding down your smile. Baby, hold me tight, let me trace your lies. Keep it low, 'cause you